Okay. Exciting today. I have my friend Karen Strang Allen with me, and I will actually pass the torch over to you, Karen, so you can introduce yourself, and then I'm going to share a funny little story about how we met. So I will pass it over to you to start.
Awesome. Thanks, Wendy. It's great to be here. So I'm Karen Strang Allen, and in my 12 years of coaching single women around the globe, I found that many really high quality women are settling for a lot less than what they deserve and consistently choosing, partners who aren't a great match for them. So, unlike most dating coaches who focus on tips to catch a guy and things like that, I empower women to step into their best self so that they're choosing somebody who's worthy of them and they can finally get the love they deserve. So that's what I do. I'm based in Ottawa, but I have clients all over the place. So yeah.
Yeah, so I love what you do. I think it's so important because just whatever the statistics are for divorces and broken
Hi.
relationships and whatnot, very high. So to have somebody like you helping the ladies out anyways, which I think in turns helps the men out as well, right? So they're getting.
Yes, because traditionally, women don't always like this answer, but women tend to lead the relationship whether they realize it or not. And so healed women will eventually result in healed men if they hold their standards high enough and insist that on choosing a healed partner, it kind of puts pressure on the guys to get their stuff in order too. So, and men and women heal differently. It's not always the exact same mechanisms, but you can't change other people. You can only change yourself. So I focus on empowering women because, women, we've been conditioned to put everybody ahead of ourselves, whereas guys are conditioned to go after what they want, which is why you'll often see men dating up and women dating down. So I'm trying to level the playing field on behalf of women.
So is that women level up? What did you say? Women level
So
up?
I find that men tend to date up and women tend to date down.
Gotcha.
So by empowering women to step into their full value, I'm leveling the playing field so that they'll start choosing partners who are their equals instead of partners they have to fix and heal and see the potential in. So that's kind of the dynamic I'm trying to
Right.
change so that
Yeah.
high quality women are choosing equally high quality partners.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. So you and I met, I don't even know how long ago, 10 years ago,
Ish.
maybe.
Yeah, 10-ish years ago. Yeah.
And I was at a speaking event put on by I think it was just Steve at the time. I don't know that it was Steve
Oh,
and Jane
yeah,
back.
he wasn't with Jane. They have their own
Yeah,
love story.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was in the old doo days. Anyways, I walked in. I was out of the main room, but I came back in after you had started speaking already. And we had never met before. I saw you, and I was just like pulled right into your story, what you were telling, and I missed your introduction. And after you came off of the stage, I made a point of coming up and talking to you after and asked you or suggested to you, like, you really need to write a book about this. And you said, I did. So I completely missed the first bit where you were talking about the book that you wrote, but eventually that turned into, we had our discovery call, and where I was at in my life at that point, I was single, another failed relationship, you know, single mom raising the three kids, one income, and I was like, I don't have a dime extra to pay for any coaching. So this was the first time that I was experiencing something outside of like what traditional benefits would cover or anything like that. And I was like, oh snap, like I need to do this, but I don't know how to do it. And you talked me through it, and we ended up coming to an agreement on a payment plan or something, and I understood the value of paying that the full price for it, right? So I ended up doing that, joining your, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, the program.
Transform your life.
Yeah, that's right. It was to transform your life. So And then not long into it, I met a guy, right? I had my dating profile on and I met a guy and a really nice man. And we ended up dating for a couple of years almost. And I was tempted to not continue on with the program with you, right? Because I was like, oh, I found somebody. Yay, it worked. I paid this money and I have a boyfriend. Yay. Right. And I stuck with it. I stayed through the program to learn about myself and to learn, the big piece for me was, we went through the archetypes and just started, really getting to become an observer of ourselves and what we attract in, and what red flags do we overlook. And, that was a very, preliminary piece of the work that I've continued to do since then. But it was a real catalyst for me, the way you did that, of it's not like you said, it's not, what fancy lure can you shoot out there into the dating pool and what are you going to bring back? It's what do I bring to the table, and what do I want to attract into me, right? So it was nice that how you do that work with people for themselves to attract in what they deserve, not what they can get.
Yeah. Yeah, because the speech that I was delivering that day was using the analogy of the Cinderella story. So, which I think is one of the worst stories people can tell their kids, their girls, because it gives girls, women, this idea that to make your life better, you just have to have a white knight ride up on their horse, and and everything will be magically better. And so then women are constantly putting all their eggs in that basket, instead of realizing that, hey, I can rescue myself, I can fix my own life, I can become empowered, to create a great life with a great career and great friends and great family, and fun leisure activities, and a much more well balanced life. And then the partner becomes the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, not the whole bloody cake, because you and your identity is what should be the cake. So so and when women haven't done that, they tend to put themselves in the position when it comes to dating of letting themselves be chosen, because on some level uh, they don't have enough confidence in their value and their self-worth, so they're letting themselves be chosen instead of choosing from a place of confidence and self-worth and knowing their value and keeping their standards high until they see what they want, instead of dropping their standards just to have someone, which doesn't tend to end up in a good relationship, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember back in the day, like in the online dating, I remember, I mean, I know of times where I was like, yeah, I can make this work. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he likes
Yeah.
me. He's writing me back, he's giving me attention. So that's cool. I'll
I
make that
remember
fit.
I remember us talking about that guy that you dated too. And I believe I used the expression with you, he's your better than before guy, not your everything guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Just because they're better than the last guy doesn't mean they're everything that you want.
Right.
There's,
Yeah.
yeah,
And he's a great guy. Like there was absolutely nothing wrong with him. It was not, he wasn't my vibrational match.
right fit.
And
Yeah.
I probably could have still been with him, maybe, because it was good. Right? But we need more than that. We deserve so much. We
Well,
deserve
and
so much more than that.
absolutely. And the piece around where you were hesitating to finish the program, which this happens with my clients all the time. They're like, oh, I'm dating somebody. I don't need to finish the work. Yes, you do. Because the point of the program, it isn't to get a guy. The point of the program is to improve your relationship with yourself, because your relationship with yourself is the only relationship you can ever know will be with you from birth till death. It's
Right.
the only one.
Yeah.
And it's the foundational one that determines everything. It determines the level of abundance you can attract, the kinds of friends you pick, the kinds of partners you pick. When your relationship with yourself is solid, it just it improves the qualities of the choices that you can make. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the part that should come first, but for many women, it's the part that comes last, or often not at all. They don't even think about having a relationship with themselves or how they treat themselves, or realize that they're chronically self-abandoning, and that's why they have abandonment fears. Or that, for me, when I'm assessing people, during the love breakthrough sessions that I do with people, I can pinpoint really quickly the patterns and how it reflects back on how somebody's treating themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting work. It's interesting work because so much of this is subconscious, right? If it was conscious, people would do more about it. But often there's these beliefs and patterns and behaviors that people aren't even aware of, that trace way back to their childhood, but they don't even know they're there. They don't even realize, oh, that's why I do what I do, and that's why I believe what I believe, and
Yeah.
that's why I keep attracting somebody to reflect back to me what I already believe about myself. And there's something to learn here. There's something to shift and to change so that I can grow and my relationships can improve. So even though it seems like, our relationships are all about the other person, it's always comes back to us. It always comes back to, who am I being? What am I believing? And what am I doing? And how does that determine the results I'm getting? So, yeah, in an empowering way, not in a self-blame kind of way, but in a, what do I need to, because if you're the cause of the results you've been getting, then you're also the solution to getting better results.
Right. Well, it's that accountability piece.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about this a little bit earlier before we started recording, but we got to talking a little bit about the energetics and how we call in these partners and these mirrors for us, right? And if we don't see what the patterns are within us, we're going to keep attracting in those unhealthy partners to show us what we need to see about ourselves.
Absolutely.
You
And I've
know?
done it. Right? I mean, my clients have those patterns, but I had them too. That's how I got into
Sure.
this work in the first
Yeah.
place, right? For me, I was going avoidant, somebody with an avoidant attachment style to somebody who was narcissistic, somebody with avoidant attachment style, somebody who was
Right.
narcissistic. And I was constantly repeating the two main patterns from my childhood over and over again without realizing it. And eventually I kind of like, I can keep blaming everybody else, but I'm the common denominator here. So what am I missing? What's going on? And when I dove deep into understanding that and realizing, okay, there is a pattern here, there's a lesson to learn, there's something I need to change, then it allowed me to make those changes and to start improving the quality of my relationships with everyone, first with myself, but then with other people, and to make better choices. And the people in my life now are just, I mean, it's night and day from 30 years ago when I started doing this work. So, yeah, anyway, it's fun. It's fun to see. People often think their reality is fixed, that what I see in front of me, this is all there is. And that ain't true. What you got in front of you is a reflection of your past beliefs and behaviors. And when you change those beliefs and behaviors, everything can change, and sometimes surprisingly quickly.
Yeah. How do you get people to see that?
Um,
Big question.
yeah, I mean, often through case studies and examples of people I've worked with, and the level of change that's possible. Now, I obviously can't ever get guarantees or or time frames, because it's different for everybody, and a lot of it depends on a person's own desire for change and how committed they are. Like, how fast things happen is often dependent on how much effort you're willing to put in, and how honest you're willing to be with yourself about what's not working. And and the work you do. So a coach, as you know, Wendy, can never, we're only half the equation. So we can give the tools and the strategies and the clarity on what needs to change, and the encouragement and the inspiration and the cheerleading. What we can't do is take the action steps. That's what only the client can do. So the speed at which things happen is partly dependent on the person's own urgency to change and their desire to take the action steps. But it's happened enough times now that I've seen a client just completely transform their life in about a year, which to me, a year is a short period of time. uh, to do things like like one of my clients, Tracy, who in just over a year, she up leveled her. She was depressed and stuck in a job she didn't like. Two kids who were about to leave home, was going to be an empty nester, kind of felt like nothing in my life makes me happy, and single. Um, and so, we worked on her career first to help her to find a job that she enjoyed more, that paid more, which allowed her to buy a new car and some new clothes, and to just start feeling, and to start doing things that she enjoyed more. And she from there made some new friends. She met a new guy. They started seeing each other. And anyway, fast forward, I can't remember exactly how long. I think it was probably 18 months later, they got engaged, they bought a house, and then they got married the following year. And to me, that's a relatively short time frame to go from,
Yeah.
feeling like your life is over to starting a brand new life with a really great person, and having a completely new lease on life. So yeah, so that's just, one example. And I can think of many others where it was roughly the same thing within a year, like they had just shifted everything. But it really starts with a person's identity, and it starts with their belief system. And that's why a lot of the work I do with people is around that. Yeah, so I'll often tell a story of somebody I've worked with to help people see what's possible.
Okay.
Again, you have to be careful, like you're not trying to promise something or promise a time frame. I don't have a crystal
Yeah.
ball where I can say you will meet your soulmate in exactly 4 months, and I'm gonna let me draw a sketch of exactly what he looks like. Yeah, so that's not exactly what I do, but um, but I know that the principles I teach, that they work, and how long it takes is just a question of uh, the speed of change people are comfortable with. Some people want everything to change overnight, and some people don't.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, it's that surrendering piece, right? And so surrendering to a process, but also um, being honest and with themselves, right? That's the first. It's the funniest thing to me about how we can lie to ourselves, right? How we can trick ourselves into believing whatever we want about ourselves and our own behavior and and like I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sure, we can talk about different psychologists and philosophers and their theories on it. But as soon as you can, from what I found, as soon as I can get somebody to acknowledge some of their own shortcomings to themselves about their habits, about their judgments, about just things that they aren't proud of about themselves, then they realize they do it, like judging other people. Like, because we can't judge other people to a greater degree than how we judge ourselves, right? So if you find yourself judging other people, their decisions, their partners, their life choices, whatever, you have to be so self-critical,
Yeah, it's
right?
almost
So
almost a projection of what you
a
disown in
hundred
yourself.
percent, 100%. So if you can get, like, my big party trick, I guess I would say, with people, is just getting them to become the observer of themselves. And I get feedback from people like, I don't think I really like myself. Like, I'm seeing that I'm more like my mom than I realized I was, or just different things. And what a beautiful epiphany that is for people. Like, even just to acknowledge, like, oh my God, I'm so much more like my mom, right? And mom, I'm
Yeah,
not
and
saying
it's
that. I'm talking about somebody else, just in case my mom's watching this video,
a
right?
bit, and to get to those kernels. So to me, I see part of our role as coaches as being truth tellers, compassionate truth tellers. So
Yes.
that's why it's important to build a sense of safety with people. And part of how I do that is to share vulnerably my own stories. Like I've made these mistakes myself. It's not about self-blame and criticism. It does not serve us to beat ourselves up, to bully ourselves. It's only with compassion that things change. So when we can look at the mistakes we've made, the things we've done that haven't served us, and shine love and light on that, shine compassion on that, and go, and with curiosity, go, I wonder I wonder why I did that. I wonder
Yeah.
how did that all happen? And then when
Yeah.
you start getting curious about it and go into the observer mode, or in NLP, we'd call it third position, then, you start looking objectively at it, then you don't have to feel bad for what you've done. Instead, you're looking for the nuggets of wisdom and learning and growth, so that you don't keep repeating the bloody pattern over and
Mhm.
over like Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
which is far worse than making a mistake, is making it 10 times.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
right? Because we haven't learned the lesson. We haven't figured out what we were supposed to get from it. And what we don't heal repeats. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
So yeah, so sometimes people say, like you were talking about earlier on, about that, there's an investment to be made when you're doing coaching. Well, yeah, of course there's an investment to be made, because we have, I don't know about you, but I have like $300,000 worth of training at this point, and 12 years of professional experience, and I'm really good at what I do, and I can unpack things really quickly. And so of course we have to, there has to be an energy exchange, right? If you want somebody who can help you change things faster, there's an energy exchange. But what I will say is it's far more expensive to keep going through bad relationships and having them break up and go through divorces and splitting assets and the emotional toll and losing time off work and having a negative impact on your health and mental health. That costs way more
Yeah.
than just sitting your butt down with a coach and getting some of this work sorted out, so that you don't have to waste valuable. To me, the biggest cost is the years of your life you waste in the wrong places.
Yeah.
That's the real cost.
Yeah.
And to me, life is precious. I've lost so many family members young that I don't take a minute of my life for granted. And I don't want to keep spinning my wheels when I know somebody has the shortcut to getting to where I want to go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Funny. Yeah. So what about you? So the podcast is called Enough of This Shit Show, and it's a tie-in into the book that I wrote. Um, do you have was there like a time in your life where you were like, enough, like this isn't working, something's got to give?
So many. It's hard to choose only one. I would say I've had five major identity shifts, dark nights of the soul, tower moments where everything fell apart and I had to put it all back together again at this point in my life. Um, it's funny, I was just coincidentally talking to a friend at lunch about this today. So I'll probably go back to the one, where my ex-husband and I decided to part ways. So, and the funny thing about that time was, realizing after being together 10 years, he's a good person, I'm a good person, and we have two little kids, 2 and 4, but this just isn't working. Like, we're polar opposites, opposite attachment styles, opposite relationship needs. It was like oil and water, and we were just torching ourselves trying to live together. And after 8 of the 10 years in therapy, it's like, okay, there's no improvement here. If anything, it's getting worse. So the only thing worse than continuing to put more time and energy into something, like 10 years of time and energy into something that isn't working, is continuing to do it. Right. So, but at the exact same moment that I had the awakening and realizing that, I needed to exit this relationship, I had been on maternity leave with my kids and I had given up my government job, and I was about to start my own business. So so I was not only leaving the financial security of my marriage and my cushy 6-figure government job to go out on my own and put down a substantial deposit on a house without having a separation agreement, without having a job. I still, to this day, I'm not sure how I secured a mortgage with no income, but anyway, somehow I did. But it was one of those times where I just knew I couldn't stay where I was. And I knew there was, in my heart and in my soul, I knew there was something better. I just wasn't sure what it was. I knew something else was calling me forward. So my spirit knew. My ego self was like, dear God, what are you, insane? Like, I wouldn't have exactly considered myself to be a risk taker. I was actually pretty risk averse. So leaving a secure job and a secure marriage simultaneously, jumping off 2 cliffs with no bloody clue where I was going to land, that was pretty scary. But I could just feel in my heart and soul that that's what I needed to do. And I just kind of took one step at a time. and took the inspired actions and walked through the doors that opened in front of me with no idea where that was going to take me or where I was going to end up. But I can still look back at that and go, I absolutely was following the call of my spirit, and it definitely led me, to a better place. And yeah, it's crazy now to think about the risks I took with a 2 and 4 year old and a mother who was starting to show signs of dementia, and starting a business and starting and buying a home on my own as a single woman. And yeah, it was a lot. But yeah, so the hardest part when we're making a decision that we can't stand the life we're in anymore, that this life doesn't fit me. It doesn't feel right. I can feel in my body it doesn't feel right. The relationship doesn't feel right. The job doesn't feel right. Nothing feels right. But then you have to let go of what's wrong, of what doesn't fit, in order to figure out what does. And that liminal space in between, where you're not in a new place yet and you're not even sure of your direction, that's the place that feels the scariest, right?
Yeah.
And it can be hard to trust that something good's on the other side of that. But I'll say something good is always on the other side of that. And the good that's even in the middle of that, the liminal space, is the transformation you go through as a person. And that's when people use, we use the analogy of the butterfly and the cocoon. So that's the cocoon stage where, the caterpillar, every cell of the body has to break down and you turn into this mushy, gooey mess, and you don't know which way is up and which way is forward. And you have to go through that phase of the basically identity collapse, where what you thought you knew just falls apart. You go through a whole paradigm shift and you don't know where you're going or what's happening. But on the other side of that, the butterfly spreads its wings and takes flight, and there's a whole new world in front of you that years ago you couldn't even have imagined. So yeah, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but so I would say that was a good example for me of a time where I couldn't stand the life I was in anymore. I was just done. I was done with the self-sacrificing and the overgiving and the people pleasing and the exhausting myself to be what everybody else wanted me to be, and feeling like I just completely lost myself. I didn't even know who I was anymore. I didn't know how to make myself a priority in my own life. I was living my life for everybody else, and I knew something had to change.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That is exactly what I was talking about. It's that moment where you know that you deserve better,
Yeah.
right? And you know that
Even if you don't know what better is.
even if you right, even if you don't know what better is, and if you don't know how to get to better, but you want to get to better,
Yeah.
right? So it's like setting that in your GPS as a location, and then just surrendering and trusting in that process of knowing spirit's got you.
Yeah.
Right? Spirit,
Surrendering and
God,
trusting.
whatever, whatever your beliefs.
Yeah. Surrendering and trusting for sure, moving to a place of faith. And then also, um, and looking for support. Like, whether it's a coach or mentor or whatever, when we're going through those huge periods of transition and change, you need support. You just do. And the worst thing people do, this is why I think people become depressed, is because they feel embarrassed to admit that they're struggling, and then they just stay at home watching Netflix, which isn't going to change your life, and they just spiral.
Mm-hmm.
When all you've known is this, let's say it's a box, when all you've known is a box, there's a big world outside that box, but you haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah.
So the best thing you can do is talk to somebody who's already out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Like, talk to somebody who's further ahead than you.
Yeah.
And, ideally somebody with some professional expertise, because you do have to be careful about who you're asking for support from.
Yeah. Yeah.
There will be naysayers, especially if you're taking risks. There'll be people who try to convince you to stay in your box. Those aren't the people to talk to.
No.
The people who are out of the box, who are living a bigger life, the kind of life you want to live, those are the people to talk to, and to help you expand your view of the possibilities of what can be, and instead of staying stuck in the matrix of the world, the paradigm, which is only one little tiny snippet of what's possible in this world. but your conditioning has you thinking that's all there is, and it isn't.
Yeah.
There's so much more possible, so
Right.
many more exciting things that your life can be.
And you can see it, right? Like when you do live outside of the box, you see those poor little suckers that are just stuck in the box and not even knowing that
Yeah.
there is even hope for a better way of living.
Yeah.
People are
And I
just
mean,
so resigned to their life sucking, really.
yeah, I used to use the analogy of sleepwalking because I would say up until the point where I left my marriage at 35, I would say I was sleepwalking up until
Yeah.
then. I was in the box in the matrix. I always forget in the which pill is which, but anyway, if it's the blue
Yeah.
one or the red one that gets you out, I can't remember. But anyway, I was stuck in the matrix. I was stuck doing what my parents told me to do. Get a job, buy a house, buy a car, get a husband, have kids, and that'll make you happy. Only I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I knew there was more to it than that, but that was all I had been taught. So then how do you figure, you have to learn things you weren't taught in school if you want to have a different life.
Right.
And you have to find the people who can teach you those things. Um, I mean, you can try to learn them all yourself, but that takes forever. It's usually quicker to find somebody who's several steps ahead of you
Right.
who can teach it to you. But anyway, that was always been my approach.
Yeah.
I'm not just a coach. I have taken a bajillion coaching programs because they um, they help me to they help me to get to where I want to go faster. And I'm somebody who values life and values the time I get. And I don't like spending time spinning my wheels for too long.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's like this, you can like fast track some things, right? If you just get out of
yeah,
your own way and let your soothe your ego a little bit. Just let your ego know like you might take a little bit of hits in the next little while and it's okay. I still love you, ego. You're still part of me, right? Um, because that's
exactly.
what I found the biggest needle mover for people is when they can see themselves with a truth filter, right? Like just being able to see themselves for what for the reality of the situation and not coddling themselves and not trying to point fingers to other people why their life is the way it is in that current time because as you know it's your current situation is the result of every single decision you've made
Yeah.
and nobody else.
I like to do that in an empowered way because the trick when you're doing that as a coach is you have to be careful to not put somebody in a shame spiral
Yeah.
and not have them go into their disempowered self because
Yeah.
that's not going to accomplish anything. So I usually like to help people step into their empowered self first, the part of them that has overcome lots of things before,
Yeah.
and then look at what isn't working to figure it out so that they're kind of going top down, not bottom up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's a lot easier to look at what needs to change from a place of knowing you can change it
Right.
versus a place of feeling like, oh my God, I'm never going to figure this out. Well, that's not true. Right? So, yeah,
I sometimes I'll say talking about so the blue pill is like back to your slumber, back to
right.
reality. Red pill is the awakeness. So I've clearly ingested the red pill a long time ago. And sometimes I'm like, oh, can I take the blue pill? Can I please take the
Well,
blue pill again? Because sometimes it seems like, there's just such uh, an ease and it's not an ease but it's challenging when you commit to doing this kind of work right
yeah.
because like we were talking about earlier it's ongoing you're
Well, and
having
there's almost always a catalyst, right? So that's why what you're talking about, people get comfortable being uncomfortable.
yeah
So, and human beings just dislike change, right? So people will get stuck at a certain level. To me, it's like video games, right? So, and I wasn't a big gamer, but you might get level one, two, three, and then you get stuck at level three and you can't seem to get above level three. So you just like, oh, I'll stay in level three and there's 10 more levels, to go, but you're like, oh, this is what I know. I'm used to it. I'll just stay here. But then there'll be some kind of a crisis, right? Whether it's a breakup or a job loss or a health crisis or the death of a loved one, something big will happen to rattle your world. And it can seem like it's a really bad thing at a time, but it's always there to serve you. And those big earthquaking moments in your life are there to shake you up and go, look around yourself. Is this what you want?
Yeah.
And when you're really being honest with yourself, the answer is probably no.
Yeah.
So that's the wake up call. And that's the invitation to make some changes instead of just going back to sleep, and then the universe is going to have to rock your world again because you're not paying attention.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So thank you. We've covered lots here. I think on that, because that was really good. I like how we just kind of tied that towards the end there. So just to finish off here, what would be, if you could, like, besides, bringing in resources and support to help you through some kind of big life transition, what would you recommend? Like, if somebody's at that point and they've seen a pattern repeating, and now do I go back to my safety and comfort of what I used to always do? What would you suggest for somebody just for that very first pattern disruptor?
To me, it's about, well, it's one of two things. You either have to connect enough to the pain of staying the same that you're like, I can't possibly tolerate staying the same anymore, or you have to connect to the vision of what you want instead. What's exciting to you? And usually you can notice what you want by noticing where you're feeling resentment, jealousy, or envy, because those are pointing you to what you want, only you think you can't have it. You have a limiting belief. That's why the feeling seems to be negative. But look to the people around you who have what you want and start building your belief that you can have it. When you can start to create a vision of your life that feels more exciting than where you are, then you've got something to move towards. And that'll help to give you some motivation to start taking, the steps that you need to take one little step at a time. People get ahead of themselves and they overwhelm themselves with, oh my God, how you don't need to know how. You just need to know what and why. What do you actually want and how do you want to feel? And when you can identify that, then you got something to work with.
Beautiful. If it was only that easy, eh?
Well, it's the starting place. It's not
Yeah.
everything. It's the
Yeah.
starting
Well, and
place.
it's a start, right? And it's just that one little bit of forward momentum, and every day that you wake up, it's just one more
Yeah,
day
like
that's
it's
going
just
the way you
it's
want it to.
tapping into what makes you feel excited. What does your heart feel pulled towards? That's never a lie. That's your body's a tuning fork. It tells you the truth all the time. You just don't listen.
Yeah.
You know, when
Yeah.
something doesn't feel right, it's because it's not. When you feel excited about something, that's your spirit telling you that is for you. So start paying attention to those nudges of inspiration, that feeling of your body leaning forward towards something. That's telling you the direction you're supposed to go in. And that feeling of leaning back, that's telling you stop going in that direction.
Yeah.
It's really it is that simple. We
Right.
overcomplicate it by getting in our heads and like, oh, but how and why and blah, 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 blah. Like, get out of your head, get into your body and feel what feels right. That'd
Yeah.
be my best advice for anyone.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to share with everybody? Do you have any events coming up soon?
Well, I think I just
Other
want to
programs?
share, I think, a message in general, which is that um, there's so much more possible for you than what you realize is possible for you. And you deserve better than breadcrumbs from people. And you deserve to have great relationships that are healthy, that are empowering, that are mutually supportive and fulfilling. You deserve to have abundance. You deserve to have joy. I don't think we came here to live miserable lives. I think we came here to learn some lessons on our way to living an empowered, joyful life filled with love. And if you haven't figured out how to get to that part yet, then, feel free to reach out. Wendy's a coach. I'm a coach. You can find me online. I don't have any events right this second, although I, periodically do them. I do have some trainings that are on demand online that you can certainly connect with through my website, KarenStrangAllen.com.
Wonderful. Well, Thank you so much. You know how much I appreciate you. You were a big catalyst for change for me. You know, I would never have thought way back when I would be doing what I'm doing now, living in the jungle in Costa Rica, you know,
It's
doing
been fun to
coaching and
watch your
working
journey.
with psychedelics, you know. But it just goes to show you, you know, when I was working with you, I was a single mom working as a mortgage broker, not happy, you know, paycheck to paycheck, just going through the motions because
Yeah.
that was what I thought that life had in store for me. And then, you know, look
And
at
what you knew, you tapped into the fact that you knew this wasn't what you wanted. You weren't sure what you did want yet or where you were going
yeah,
yet. You just knew you couldn't stay where you were.
yeah,
And then you followed your intuition and the little nudges, including, us working together. That was a leap of faith at the time. And then all the different things you've done since, everything was a leap. I mean, certainly, you know, meeting Ben and getting married and then
yeah,
going to Costa Rica and like you took a lot of risks too, right? You were following your intuition and following your heart.
yeah,
And that's what life is about. Life is too short to live it in fear. Life is too short to be afraid of what could go wrong instead of excited about what could go right.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's it. So just do it, you know, take a chance,
Absolutely.
have some fun. Awesome.
You could be a Nike commercial, Wendy. Just do it.
Do it. Right? I think there might be some trademarks on that one.
Probably, yes.
Awesome. All right. I